Herpes could never. Herpes could never break me, could never again make me feel less of. Herpes can't take my sexy away from me. Herpes does not take my worth away. Herpes does not devalue me. Herpes can...
The idea of rejection is very hard for people to accept, right? And it's very hard to understand, but I found some information that I think that does help some people when it comes to rejection. And it's part of understanding why rejection hurts. So, interestingly enough, if you go back 100, 200,000 years when we were gatherers and hunters, and we lived in tribes, what does Oprah always say? It takes a village. Mm-hmm. Well, there's some truth behind that. So if you go back into our history, people lived in large groups. And if something happened and you were removed from that group or forced into the world on your own, and you were rejected for whatever you did to the group, or whatever it is, your chance of survival was almost zero. Because on your own, you were probably going to die. And that reaction to that rejection is implanted in our brains. It is a psychological thing that people don't realize. So the same part of your brain that is evolutionarily changed for thousands of years, that same part of your brain that activates when you feel pain is the same part of your brain that activates when you feel rejection. So if you can understand that feeling that you're feeling is a real thing due to a long time ago of just making you aware of something, of some sort of danger, once you realize that, like, okay, I feel terrible, I feel like crap, this person rejected me, but that pain of rejection is because of that part of our evolution. So now understanding that, you can be like, okay, I can look around. I don't live in a tribe. This isn't 100,000 years ago. I'm not going to die because this person rejected me, even though it may feel that way, and that's fine and that's okay. But the reality that you're going to get up the next morning and you're going to be just fine is going to happen. It's totally going to happen. So understanding rejection on that level, that it's a thing in your brain that's actually doing that, may help some people get a little bit past it. And I know it's helped me and a few other people, because it's like, yeah, it does suck. Absolutely. Nobody likes rejection. But we reject things all the time. Hey, you want to go to a movie? No. Hey, do you like that song? No. Do you like me? No.
That part. It's okay for someone to have boundaries and standards or whatever they want in their own life. Make some for yourselves.
Yeah.
What do you want? Instead of worrying about if someone else is going to want you, do you even know what you want? Do they have what you want?
Yeah.
There's some people who don't want to date people with kids. Okay, cool. You don't have to date me. That is fine. There's some people who don't want to date entrepreneurs. People who do want to date entrepreneurs. People who don't want. It's so many different things that people are going to want and not want. What do you want and don't want? I honestly feel like sometimes we fear rejection because we're rejecting ourselves. And people don't like to hear that. But it's okay. It's okay to be aware of that and accept that so that you can change that for yourself. Why are you rejecting yourself? It's because you don't like your herpes? Why don't you like your herpes? Why can't you accept your herpes? We can't expect other people to accept something that we don't even accept for ourselves.
There's a lot of people that who are, I guess the only way to say it is that they're just really not ready to date. Their fear of commitment before they even had herpes, and they think they have herpes. They need to start searching now, and it's like, no. You're in a bad place right now. You have all this baggage that you had before that was just being opened, and now you have herpes. You got to kind of deal with a lot more before you even get to herpes.
Yes. Me and Amber say that all the time. If you are fearing rejection,
You're not ready.
you're not ready to date. Some people are not ready to hear that. But it is
No.
okay to not be ready to date. It's time to date yourself. Why aren't you enough for you to spend a lifetime with yourself? Why isn't your own happiness not enough? Why isn't your wants and desires and hobbies and everything that time with yourself, and to be able to trust that you're going to attract whoever's for you, and what's for you will not pass you by.
There's nothing more
You're too busy
empowering than
crying.
that. You imagine yourself, even though wherever you are right now, whoever's listening, and you're like, imagine yourself getting to a point where you're hanging out with somebody and you like them, they're cool, and you can see yourself dating them, and then they're like, well, I don't see it really going anywhere. I'm like, oh, okay, and then you just walk away, and it's not that big of a deal. That's pretty strong right there. That's pretty amazing when you get to a point like that. You're like, okay, that's cool. Because if I'm not for you, I don't want to stick around and try and convince you of something that you've already made your mind up about.
That part.
You can't change people.
We had
They like you or they don't like you.
We had an anonymous letter of someone saying that she's been with her husband, and her reason for being with her husband was because he accepted her herpes status. But now she found herself in a decade-long marriage, never really loving her husband, not happy because she settled with the first person that accepted her for having herpes.
Oh, man.
And this is why I tell people, if you fear rejection, if you're searching for someone to accept your herpes, stop dating right now. It's time to do some self-work. Because rejection and acceptance is going to come whether you accepted your herpes or not.
I had a friend of mine, he had been married for, 15 years. They met in high school, and it turned out, they ended up being friends. It wasn't as bad as like many different marriages end up. But they both finally, after so many years, came to the conclusion, like, the only reason that they think that they were together was because the friends liked them together, their parents liked them together, like, that was like the right thing to do, and their culture, I don't want to get into it, but whatever their culture was that they were into was like, it was the right thing for them to be together, and everybody made such a big deal about it. Meanwhile, they were both miserable. And they both got to the point, they're like, why are we doing this? We're not even really compatible.
They like each other.
Well, they like each other now because they're no longer together. But imagine wasting, that length of a time of being with somebody when you really didn't want to be with them. It sounds awful to me.
Yeah. And I've been making more and more content around that. Just because you accept my herpes doesn't mean that we're going to have sex.
I saw that.
You accept my herpes doesn't mean that I want to be with you just because you accepted my herpes. Just because I'm herpes positive does not make me desperate. Just because I'm herpes positive does not mean I don't have boundaries and standards and things that I want from my partner. That is not your automatic goal. And I want to keep pushing that to the community, that we have to stop making our herpes status, bringing that to the table when it comes to your worth and who you are. It should be, if someone wants to be with you and really likes you or loves you for who you are, them accepting your herpes status should be expected. Okay? If you want to be with me, you have to accept my status. There's no ifs, ands, or bumps around it. That's what comes with me. It's something that I cannot help. But it has nothing to do with what I bring to the table and who I am and my worth. Stop mixing the two together.
People end up with things every single day. People end up getting the flu, getting the cold. And I remember somebody saying his wife ended up getting the flu and it was really bad. And I'm like, well, are you avoiding her? He's like, no. She has the flu, I get the flu. And I was like, damn. I was like, that's the shit right there. That's understanding what that is. Because what if she gets the flu, you're going to leave? That's so stupid.
Yeah.
Are you going to leave the relationship because she got the flu? Or she got a cold? No, of course not. So
No.
why would herpes be really any much different? It's so dumb.